Right. So for the organization section of the policy, right, what is considered here, the organization section, that doesn't really boil it down for you. So what the organization section has in it, it really have in it the people, right? The people in the organization, which is why it's called organization. It has in it the people in the organization who are responsible for implementing then the aims and objectives that you set. So if an aim and objective from last week class, right, was to reduce accidents to zero, what the organization section would have in it, the organization section would have in it the people who will be responsible for reducing accidents to zero, right? I'll give you another one. If from last week we had, one of the aims was to have an emergency drill, what the organization section would have in it is the person. When you say organization, it's really the person, right? If you can see person here, it's the person who would conduct the emergency drill. Right? So when you look through the slides, if we can just read the top line here for you, this section, right, details the roles and responsibilities of those persons who would assist the employer to organize, control, monitor, and review the organization's preventative and protective measures. What the organization section has in it, it basically have the people. It defines the key personnel at all levels and their duties, responsibilities for the health and safety and welfare, or for bringing those aims and objectives to life, right? So if I can go through this slide, I want to show you that, again, just keep back to the back of your mind. The organization would have the people. So if we look at this slide, you would see directors, senior management, HSE advisors, health and safety representatives. Next slide, right? But this having in the role of managers. So you see here, first line managers, middle managers, top managers. In short, these are people. The organization refers to the people in the organization who will bring the objectives into, like, you know, into fulfillment then, right? So this is what you normally have to know for exam, right? So if I could have gone to this slide, not to this slide, but to the whiteboard, right? I'm going back to the whiteboard, and if I can kind of refresh your memory on that chart that we had drawn last week, right? So you remember I would have said that that there was a chart that the policy. I drew this here last week, and by the way, I said this video is on YouTube. The one from last week, you can go back and revise it, right? Just be a see. So the policy really consisted of 3 pieces, right? And we did 1 piece already. The 3 piece, that's a really bad line, right? But this is the statement of intent. Statement of intent would have been the first one. And this would have had the aims and the objectives of the company, the goals of the company there, right? Today we are on the organization, and the organization, we just saw it on this slide, the organization refers to the people that would implement them, the people that would actually fulfill those aims and those objectives that we were talking about. So typically for exam, if a question is asked on this, they normally like to ask, and like here you had to get 6 aims, like the aim was to reduce accidents to 0 from last week. So all you have to do, if you notice now, remember that the policy is 1 document, and these are really headings in the policy. The statement of intent is a heading, the organization is a heading, right? If you think of it like a book, like I said, if you think of this as a book, and as you open the book, right, there's a section in the book. The first heading is going to be the statement of intent. The second heading is the organization. But all of this still makes up 1 book, which is the policy book for health and safety. So what you normally have to get for the organization section, you normally have to get 6 persons. Typically for any written exam, it's 6 persons that have a responsibility for health and safety. So literally you can start from like the CEO and say what that person have to do. You can literally make it up. In fact, when I mean make it up, you can tie it back to the aim. You can start with the CEO, you can come down to the HSE person, you can come down to first aiders, and that is what you see I have on this slide, right? HSE, I have first aiders. So basically this is 3 here, and there was something with the I there, right? But the first aiders, right? Once you can come up with 6 persons, then that is what the organization is. So basically the statement of intent is basically, some people say it is basically what you want to achieve. Right? And if you're making a chart like this, so what you want to achieve, you want to reduce accident to 0. The organization would have who is to do it. Who here, again, for the 3rd time today, who here refers to the people that will do this. For example, if you said here from last week, we had done, you wanted to do like drills, like maybe 2 drills for the year, but who is to do that? You see, if you leave it as an aim, then it wouldn't get done. There's a need then to bring it into reality, right? There's a need then to kind of flesh it out. So in order to flesh out the aim, you need to assign it to a real person. So see if you can catch this point a bit, right? Like when they ask this, like who are the persons, responsible for health and safety, you need to give them like what they're doing here, like CEO, HSE, first aider, but you need to say what they're doing, right? So for example, you can say the CEO is required to sign and date the policy. You can say the HSE is required to conduct it or for conducting 2 drills for the year. The first aider is that administer first aid. Think you get this a bit? Yeah, because I want to go back to the slide now. I don't know if I wonder if I share it, but will erase. I don't think it's supposed to erase it. It just supposed to just stay there, right? If I go back to the slide, you'll see this is what we were talking about. This is what I had here, right? First aider, responsible for administering first aid to injured person. So when you give the who is the first aider, but he doesn't look like a first aider, he looks like a supervisor, right? So supervisor, responsible for checking day-to-day compliance with the policy. So once you give the who, you give a function, okay, fire marshal, responsible for safe evacuation of staff in an emergency or drill. Employees responsible for taking care of themselves and that of others, right? So you're supposed to know 6 who's, right? 6 type of who, 6 type of persons. One of them is the line manager. A line manager is like a low-level manager, right? Responsible and reporting to a manager, director, right? Taking part in incident investigation. I have it here, right? So the line managers, I think I had it on another slide, right? The role of the line manager, right? Personally investigating all lost workday cases and report findings to managing director. Coordinating and facilitating HSE objectives, such as carrying out a specific number of inspections, sampling or noise testing, right? So think you have that a bit. I wonder if you could, well, I know we just covered some there again. I wonder if you could add, wonder if they would give me back, oh good, so right, so the whiteboard is there. And anybody could add another who for me? I have 3 there, like who you think should be responsible for these things out here again? We just saw some anyway. Anyone? If we had to get 6 more who's, but I just want to take 1 or 2 more. Well, not really 6 more, but maybe 3 more, right? Anybody again responsible for?
Employees.
Right, good. So we saw that what employees is basically anybody, and that's what this section is about. If you notice the heading, like I said, the heading is organization. So it's basically anybody in the organization that is responsible for health and safety. Anybody again? 1 more, and I'll give it the last one.
Security.
Okay, good. Well, security. You can probably say a facilities manager or a security manager, right? A security manager, right? SEC makes a lot more trouble to write it to this little marker, right? So security manager, and maybe like a contractor, right? I guess a contractor could be the last one, but this is what the organization section is all about. And as I was saying from last week, I said that you know, the course isn't that hard. If you look at it today, we are about to finish element 2. When you have one piece of from here, what the statement of intent was all about what was your aim from last week, what is your goal, and if you just make up 8 of that, right? The organization 6, they don't ever give you 8 marks, and that as I say in 6, now it's an 8-mark question, but they see this as too easy, right? So they don't ever give a full 6 marks, so they say lucky to get 4. You're probably lucky to get 6, sorry, right? But typically this may come for 4 marks, like 4 persons in the organization who could assist them in achieving these aims here. Typically, hopefully you've seen it, you have to link the aim to the person, like who is to do the drill, the HSE. When I mean link, you have to link it in a sentence now, right? I mean, you wouldn't really link it on a chart like what they're trying to do here. But like the aim then should be tied into a person. Like if you say, the aim is to conduct accident investigations. That may be the HSE again. The aim is to probably have, let's see what could be an aim. But the aim probably is to have, what's a nice aim for you all to understand? I guess a nice aim may be to have 0 environmental spills. That may still be the responsibility of HSE, right? So it's kind of based on where you put it, you're gonna have to kind of designate it to a responsible person, and then that is what makes up the organization, right? So if you're lost with it, just remember all of it was on this slide. I can go back and show you again. It is actually just pinpointed on this slide as to who is to do what, right? You'll see here the role of managers, what they have to do. You'll see here the role of employees, what they have to do, the role of fire marshals, what they have to do, the role of first aiders, the role of supervisors, etc. Right? And there it is, we're almost at the end. We have the last piece of the policy. So let me just read this for you and I'll go back to the chart. So they said this section deals with the company's preventative and protective measures. I'll explain this here just now. Usually in the form of procedures for achieving the stated aims in the statement of intent by the person with the responsibility in the organization. Well, it couldn't get clearer than that. I'll read it again, right? What the arrangement section happening? It should have the procedures for meeting the aim by the responsible person. Procedures for meeting the same aim, reduce accidents to 0, by the responsible person, the HSE. So I'm going back to the chart, right? And, right, so back to the chart. So what the arrangement sections have in it, this section would have in it, right? The procedures that the persons would now have to use to fulfill the aim, right? So if I can make a kind of link here. Let's say it was the HSE. The HSE person has to do a drill. I'm going to try to link this, right? The HSE person is to do a drill. Now you just won't do a drill haphazardly, then you have to follow a procedure, which most of us would know. You know, like if the alarm goes off, or when the alarm goes off, the folks in the company would have to walk calmly and quietly down to the muster point, have their name called. In other words, then, or in other words, they are following the emergency procedure, right? To see if you can see the link. Once you set the aim, it's given to a person, but the person don't just go and run out and get it done. The person must be following a procedure. So what the arrangement section has in it, I'll put your emergency, right? What the arrangement section has in it is all the procedures that is in the company for emergency, right? So this section is the section with the procedures. So for this one, take off the 6 from here. They sometimes do ask for this one to come up with 8 arrangements. If you can come up with 8 arrangements, that the company is supposed to have, right? So typically you can come up with 8 statements of intent, for example. You normally would only ask 4, they'd only ask 4 persons in the organization. But for the last piece there, they back to 8. So they wanted to know like 8 procedures a company could have, or 8 arrangements, right? Now they would say the word arrangement, they would not say the word procedures, but from the slide we just saw, you saw that the word arrangement, it is another word that means procedure, right? So if you could help me with this one again, we want to come up, and I wouldn't be able to write 8 on this, see me writing as, you know, tracing on the cursor anyway, right? But so if you understand is that what we need to get 8 procedures, right? So anybody could give me another procedure, and the trick to this, the trick to understanding this is that anything could be a procedure, right? You just have to say a procedure for, right? Like how I just said, a procedure for emergency. Anything in the company could be a procedure. You just have to say the word procedure in front of it, right? So if you want, I could give you another one, maybe just to kind of get the creative juices going. I guess a procedure for coming to work on time, right? So all they want when the question is what is 8 arrangements, you know, in the policy, you just want to come up with 8 procedures. So a procedure for coming to work on time. I won't be able to write all of that. I'll just try to sneak in the word here, time. So a procedure for coming to work on time. And what would we need procedures for? Anybody else?
Drug test.
Very good. A procedure for a drug test. You understand? If this is a nice one to tie into the whole train of thought we have here, right? So let's say one of your aims was to do a drug test, to have the workers and them tested, which I think we mentioned last week. This would have to be given to a responsible person in the organization. I'm going to say the agency again, but the agency wouldn't be able to do, you know, like I said, do a drug test haphazardly. They would have to follow a procedure, like for example, contacting a lab, getting a representative to come down to their company, perhaps taking 3 quotations. In other words, then they're following a procedure, right? So what is missing from this? I don't have the best movement with this cursor anyway, right? But what is missing from all of this is the word procedure, right? If you don't put the word procedures, get it wrong, because the arrangement is the procedures for getting whatever you say done to be done, right? So procedure for drug tests. One more and I'll write, and the others I'll just go back to this slide because it's on this slide already. One more from anybody else, another procedure.
Procedures for accidents.
Very good. Procedure for accident reporting, right? And the rest will take it from this slide, right? So like when an accident happens, what do they do? Again, that may be the responsibility of the first aid and the HSE, but do they just make it up and do they just do what they want to do? No, they'll have to follow a procedure, right? So this is being recorded again, in case, you know, I'll put it up on the YouTube channel once it's finished converted. So you can have a review of this. But going back to this slide, again, if you didn't get it from there, it is all already fleshed out on the slides. But I use the table because I thought the table was a nice way of breaking down the 3 pieces of the policy. So in arrangement, I'll read this line again. What this piece have, it have the procedures for achieving the aim, which is like doing a drug test, by the responsible person, by the HSE. And what I did here, I listed out a bunch of procedures, right? You start to see them from here. And I have here, must learn 8, right? But you can make them up if you want, I guess. So procedures for a written safe system of work, procedures or provisions for, you know, fire, safety, evacuation routes, procedures for consulting with the workforce, procedures for doing things like permit to work, right? Procedures for dealing with hazardous substances, right? This one here. Procedures for dealing with accidents, right? One of you rightfully said that. Procedures for material handling, procedures for use of disciplinary equipment, procedures for communication. It's basically anything, and that's a thing. You can literally make that up. Once you know everything in a company, things will happen like haphazardly. example, if let's say that same drug testing thing would have happened and the HSE person used a lab that was not on file, the managers may say you did not follow procedure, right? If something happened then, let's say, I mean, not following procedures often is grounds for being terminated, right? Let's say you dealt with an accident, right? You dealt with an accident, but you didn't report it to your manager. You kind of kept it hush-hush, right? They can say, you know, yes, we wanted to reduce accidents to zero, but I don't mean you didn't have to report it. You had to follow the accident procedure, right? So literally, you have procedures for everything in safety. We almost at the end slide already, right? The rest of it is just have four just ending slides there. Now, just in terms of the textbook, again, I know if you have the same much persons we have today, if you have about 9 persons today, so I know certain persons like Marcus have the green textbook. Nathaniel, I'm not too sure which one you have. You have the green or you have the 2 separate books?
I have the green.
Right, okay, good. The green is the one that I used back in my day. But again, the 6th edition that you will have is the latest edition, right? The green book has it really nice in chapter 2. And I know the other book has it really nice. So like I said, all you have to do is find the table of contents and find the chapter on policy. And you would see the green book has about like 20 different procedures. And it's written just as it's short. It's written in point form. You know, procedures to deal with accident, procedures of material handling. But, you know, other than cramming, if you could just try to understand it, like if you understand the arrangement section, it's just all about the different policies in the company. I'm gonna go back and try to show you the chart. If you understand that, what I was saying and my way of teaching is that if you can understand that, you can simply make it up. If you understand the statement of intent is what you want to accomplish, you can just make up 8 aims. Reduce accidents to zero, reduce environmental spills, have more training, all of those could be what, right? The organization is who is to do the what. You can simply make up 4 persons. Of course, it have more than 4 here already. And the arrangements is just 8 procedures that you need to think of. Literally, you're saying anything that you are faced with in a company will have a procedure. If it's smoking, procedure for smoking, and I'm talking about cigarettes now, right? So it's not the drugs or the hard, you know, the harder type of drugs anyway, right? So procedure for smoking and that they may want to smoke in a designated area, right? So all of that, anything you could think about it and have a procedure for it. Procedure for taking time off. What about that one? Procedures for taking a day off. Procedures for risk assessments. Procedures for maybe going into a confined space. Procedures for dealing with an emergency, like maybe an act of violence or a chemical spill. So you can simply make up those things. And if you do that, you will well be on your way to not cram, but really understand what this is all about for the exam, right? So the last concept on this slide, I wonder if I could leave this here, but the last thing that you have to know to finish off this element on your syllabus, remember there are only 4 elements. We are finished with 1. Believe it or not, today you're finishing 2. Next week you're starting a 3rd element. After that you have 1 element to go. But the other elements are a little bit longer. They're almost as long as the first one. They take us about a month anyway. But they're not hard. They're not hard in terms of laws, right? So the last piece of this, and I'm looking at the time, which means we're making good time today. The last piece of this, let's just try to get my marker and I'll try to show it on the same chart, right? The last piece of this, they normally would like you to give them, when do you go and review? The last piece of this is, when do you review this policy? When should the policy be reviewed? Right? And again, just bear in mind, we would have said that the table there, even though I draw a table, is really representative of a book, right? And this book is called the Health and Safety Policy Handbook. And as you open the book, you're gonna find these, at the top of my line, you'll find these 3 sections in the book, right? So we kind of draw the table so it'll be easy for you to understand, so that you know the policy consists of 3 pieces anyway. But in the form of a book, I was saying, if you open a book, And as you turn the pages, they'll have different sections. One section is called the statement of intent. Next section, the organization, etc. As you turn the page, you come across the organization, sorry, the arrangement section. So the question is, when do you review this, right? And you know, we would like to get 6 answers. Maybe we can just do 3 here and take the rest of this slide. So you must understand that there's a need to review this, right? Like from year to year, right? You wouldn't want this to be 2020 and the policy the company using is from like 2005, right? So there's a need to review it. And the question is asked here, when? So this is really, it's going to put something, this is really supposed to be when, a question mark, right? When should the policy be reviewed, right? And the answer is tied into this. The answer, I can give you 3 right here. The answer is like when you review, is like when your aim change. Like if they change your aim, right? Supposing, let's say the aim, I mean, let's review back to this one. Suppose the aim was to do 2 drills for the year, but you already achieved 2 drills for the year, right? Let's say this was 2020, right? 2020, this is the goal for 2020. Company wanted to do 2 drills for the year. So they already did 2 drills for the year, right? So they may want to go and change this now and say they want to do 4 drills for the year, or maybe they want to do 2 additional drills. The fact that they're making a change means they have to review the policy. Review the policy means they're changing something in the policy, right? So when do you review? The answer is like when you have a change. They would have changed something in the policy itself, right? So if there's a change to an aim, or you already met your aim then, right? Then you can go back and review the policy. Take again a bit like this one. Let me use another one here. So there's a change in the aim. I would want to say maybe that you achieved the aim, or maybe the aim was maybe unachievable. Maybe because of COVID, you can't achieve that aim anymore, right? So you had to change the aim. Instead of leaving it back, you can go and change the aim. Another reason to review is if you have a change to the person. The whole thing about review, the catch for review is whenever you have a change. Change, change, change. Once there's a change, you have to review the policy, right? So let me come back to the organization. So supposing we would have said that the CEO, you know, had the responsibility of signing the policy and, you know, doing annual reviews and monthly reviews, but this person left the company. The person left, right? Because of the COVID situation in March, the person left the company in the month of March. So that we don't have a CEO, but the responsibility has now probably been passed to like a senior manager again. The fact that you change something here, it means you need to review the policy. The fact that you change it then is the evidence of the review. So another reason to review is like there was a change in personnel, right? You can think of this as maybe the person left. I mean, God forbid the person may have passed away, right? Change in person, if I can fit in that there, right? So a change in person. My finger's really hurting trying to get this thing done, right? So this one not working. I think my fingers hurting too much trying to get this one done. That doesn't make sense, right? Let me get a reason for that one, right? But a change in person. Yeah, what I'll just I should have just drawn a stick figure, right? So a change in person, right? So I think you get the idea that once you have a change, right? A change in the person, I'll just draw a stick figure. Once the person would have left, the person, you know, went to another job, it don't make sense, right? I mean, it don't make sense. I mean, you can think of how impractical this is. I don't know if you know, some companies, they have this chart on their notice board. As you enter some companies, they have who is responsible then for health and safety. Imagine how weird it is if you go in a company and you see my name, you see Shadrach's name in the company, but Shadrach left the company like 10 years ago, right? And I've actually seen that, I wouldn't call it a company here, but I've actually seen a company, a big company in Library, that when I went in, I know the person who they had as in charge of safety had actually left the company, right? The person left, but they didn't go and update then like the charts and the policy handbook, etc. So the policy handbook still had the person's name, the person had left probably more than 3 years anyway, right? So I guess you'd probably guess the last one. When do you review? A change in the aim, a change in the organization, and the last one is the same thing here, a change in the procedure. For example, a change in your drug procedure, right? A change in the smoking area. So whenever you have a change in any one of these, you need to go and review. Review means you need to update the policy book. Please look at it in this sense. And this is a book, and the book may have had the CEO name here, right? But because the person may have left, you need to go in and change that in the book. So when do you review? The answer is whenever you have a change, right? And if you can make up 8 changes, you'll be good to go for exam. Again, the green book has this really nice, and like I said, I know the other book has it as well. Just I'm not familiar with the page of it, right? So whenever you have a change, that is a reason for review. So this is the last concept for today, so we may finish a bit early today. Right, so when you review, when it's time, for example, most documents are reviewed every year or every 3 years. It all depends on the company's document control. But the rest of them, right, when they are technological changes, when they are organizational or legal changes, and organizational changes like, you know, the CEO left, right? Results on measuring performance, such as on audits. An audit may have revealed that the company not doing as good as they thought. So that's a reason to review, right? If you go back, I'm not going back to the chart, but you would have seen like maybe accidents to 0, right? But they said they wanted accidents to 0, but they had like 20 accidents, 20 accidents for the year, right? Change in key personnel, young person. Another reason to review is if you have enforcement action from the HSE, which is the Health and Safety Executive, right? Like if the company would have gotten a fine, then one of those notices, the improvement or the prohibition notice, right? So believe it or not, that is the end of it, right? That is the end of element 2. There's a question here which I could leave for you to do for homework. Identify the information that should be contained in the arrangement section of a health and safety policy. Let me see if the chart is still visible. Right, so once it's the arrangement section, you want to give them the procedures here, right? So you make up 8 procedures. We already have 4 here. I guess put your mind to it. If you're in safety, you just make up something, procedures for permit to work, procedures for inspection, procedures for GSA, right? And you should be good to go. If you look at the book, it's the same thing. And don't think I'm making it sound too simple, because when you open the book, it's the same thing the book has in it, right? Procedures for managing contractors, procedures for drug testing, right? The verb they use here is identify, meaning that 1 sentence is good enough. So you need to come up with 8 sentences, perhaps in point form, as what you see we're trying to do on the slides. And that would wrap up this piece of it here, right? So if you have any questions, because the lesson is actually completed, the most I can do is just do a quick review. The first piece of element 2 spoke about management systems. The main management system being the ISO 45001 model. And they normally ask, like, what is the purpose or what, like, what is the benefit of getting a management system? It is right on this slide. The benefit is like, it will, you know, lead to better access to like tenders. It's good for the company reputation. Could make a safer workplace, improve the company's culture and stuff, right? In terms of the ISO diagram, I think I asked you all, maybe try to remember we have 4 elements inside of it. If you could remember 4 elements, of course you should remember today, which was policy. Policy, you can't forget that one, but you have some other elements inside there like improvement, contractor management, if you can see that there, resources, competence. You can probably just learn about 4 elements of that. They have no questions on this because this is a new part of the syllabus anyway. So there's no past papers to look back to for this one. Right, so we did that. And then from there, we started to look at the requirement for having a policy. The legal requirement is on this slide, section 2, subsection 3 of the HSW Act 1974 says if the employer has 5 or more employees, they need to have the policy in writing. And from there, really simple, we went into the 3 pieces of the policy, which you keep seeing on the diagram: the statement of intent, the aims of the company, right? You see this again, the statement of intent is also called, it sets the goal of the company, the aim, the objective, the target. Some people call it vision, some people call it mission, but it's really the aims of the company, right? Anyway, we went on to give some aims like reduce accidents to zero, etc. They have some here as well, right? Then we went today to the organization, basically have the roles and responsibilities of those persons who have a part to play in fulfilling the aim, and those persons could range from, if you look at the slides, directors, HSE advisors, health and safety representative, line managers. You only need to know 4, by the way, right? I'm not going through all of that. Employees, fire marshal, first aiders, supervisors. You need to know all of that. You just need to know 4. And the last one is the arrangements. Arrangements are really procedures. The UK, the word they say is arrangements. In Trinidad and Tobago, we understand it to be procedures. Not to mention, they said that it is procedures for getting the intentions done. So then all you need is about 8 arrangements, right? You need 8 arrangements for getting the work done. And the arrangements could be from anything, right? Procedures for consultation, procedures for hot work, procedures for an emergency drill, procedures for smoking, procedures for a GSA, and you could just make it up. And the last piece we were just on was review. When do you review? The key answer to review is whenever you have a change. Whenever there's a change, you need to review. Change in the aim, change in the organization, change in the arrangement, change in technology, results of audit, finding, enforcement action from the HSE. You really need to know about 6, right? So you see here, learn any 6. Or you could literally make it up if you think of it that well, and you could come up with your own procedure. For example, procedures are coming to work on time and there was a change in the time at which you come to work, that's a reason for reviewing, right? And that's it. So we didn't give any homework.
Hard at work, mommy.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, sorry. Yeah. So we actually didn't give any homework last week, but I'd give it this for homework for today. I mean, it's literally wouldn't take you 10 minutes to do, and it is a past paper question, right? As I but bring this, I guess I'll bring the curtain down on this one because we are finished. What I was going to tell you, well, next week will be a new PowerPoint. I'll have to send you, that will be the element on culture. So if you have your book, the NG1 book, just check out culture. For those of us with the green book, it'll just be chapter 3, I guess, right? But the other book, just for the session on culture, we'll be starting on that next week. And try to kind of throw in this here. Once we start risk assessment, which is actually part of element 3, we would be able to start our project, right? There's a project in this course. So you may be able to start your project as early as August, because elementary to reach risk assessment may take me 2 more sessions again, maybe around the last week in July. So by August, we should be able to start looking at the project, right? I was going to say, in case you all want to have a look at this video, I think I mentioned last week, we already have like a 5-minute video up from about 2 years ago on policy, right? The name of it is policy. You can look at it and you'll see. You can have a look at that video, right? It doesn't have students in it, right? So it's just done like a normal video. They're not really a teaching video, right? But it reviews policy, I guess, over and over again, because you can play it over and over again, from statement of intent to arrangement in about 4 to 5 minutes. You can look for that on the YouTube channel, Shadrach Safety Institute, and it should help you quite a lot, because a lot of students before had used it in the last 2 years anyway, right? Any closing comments here for me? I guess we finish up a little bit early today. So I'll have to bring the session down there. Any closing comments or any comments at all? Easy enough for now, right? Review it. I'll try to post this one up. My greatest wish though is that is that you all understand the work and you don't cram. You notice that I would normally tell you, you could think of these things and understand it. And if you could do that, it means you don't have to go and cram. So once you cram, you'll forget. But if you understand, you don't ever forget, right? So if you understand what the aims were fine, you can make them up. If you understand what the arrangements were, just procedures, you can make them up. And in that way, you never really forget them because you never really did cram them, right? Well, I would, let me just try to end the recording then, and I would see you all back